Hello YouTube, I am back with another installment, volume 3 in my Missing Persons and Unsolved Cases series. This one, as I said before, is going to focus on a beautiful young soul by the name of Kyron Horman. Kyron Horman. Now, okay, before I start, let me do a little explanation, just especially for those of you who are new. My name is Juniper Mystique, also known as Brianna, aka multiple things, right? But I'm a master healer. I don't really know exactly how it is I do what I do. I mean, I do, but it takes a lot to explain, and that's not what I'm here for today. I just tune in and receive what I receive, and I ask what they want everybody else to know. And these are for purposes of shining light where it needs to be, to ascend the world and to clear what needs to be cleared and bring healing to what needs to be healed, and so on and so forth, because that's what I do. And that's who I am, and I've been helping this ascension journey all along the way. So I'm honored to be able to do these, but take them for what they're worth. Neither do I guarantee what I say. I don't know what it is that I say. I just give you what they, I'm a channel, I'm a healer, I'm a master healer. I let it roll and I tell you exactly what they want you to know. And I do it without hesitation, so just keep that in mind. If you don't like it, if you don't agree with it, that's okay, just move on. Otherwise, maybe just be open that maybe there's something to these, right? Because I've been shown that there is in the past many times over in what I do, so I believe in me. And the rest is up to you. But again, I'm honored to do them. Okay? So that's a little tidbit in who I am and what I'm doing here with these. My hope is that they bring healing to those that need healing. Now with that, the way I tune in is I'm not an astrologer. I'm so far from an astrologer, it's not even funny, you guys. And I'm sorry about my camera if it sounds any weird or does anything different. It's been messing up. I'm definitely connected to some higher realms, let's just put it that way. And so I receive, just straight up receiving. I just ask and I shall receive, and that's how I roll. And these are, you know, what do you want everybody to know? What happened to you? I do ask how they passed, and so I do ask that tidbit. But the rest, generally speaking, is just what they want you to know. Okay, so back to Kyron Horman. This little boy is so cute, and he's been all over the media, I believe, at the time of his disappearance. I remember hearing some things about it back in 2010. So he was a little, so how I do these is I just ask and I receive, and like I've said before, I kind of just write them down all over the place. I did it once a while back, and then I had some things happen to me, as some of you know, that watch this channel frequently, and then I did it again, and then I also called on him, and so I kind of do these 3 ways now, you know, and he is very much so with me. He appears to be 21, although I guess in reality he would be more like 18, but he looks like he's 21, that's how he's presenting himself. Excuse me, on the other side. So he is growing, he is healing, he is ready to ascend, right? He's ready to be done with this and move on. But his focus, though, is what he wants me to say first and foremost, is of his mother. And so before I even get to talk about him, he is adamant that I bring her up already. Desiree Young, he loves his mommy. He was a mommy's boy, and that's what he wants to be considered. I know he's not, he's an adult now, he would be basically, but he is definitely very much so and always was a mommy's boy. So I want to do him justice and just bring that up right away. But going back to who he was, Kyron Horman was born in, I believe, born in Oregon, but he was 7 years old, from Portland, Oregon, or at least was in Portland, Oregon when he went missing from school, according to his stepmother. He was a second grader. He went missing on June 4th, 2010. Forgive me because I'm reading it. So again, he was 7 years old when he went missing from Portland, Oregon, supposedly or allegedly from his school, according to his stepmother, Terry Horman, who was his stepmother, which is interesting because I'll tell you where they said he was. Anyways, you'll find out why that's interesting later. Let's see. Like, where do I start? Because it does go all over the place. So forgive me for that. Again, there's still no smooth flow to these for how I do them all the way. They're very powerful though, and they can be a little bit emotional for me. And each one so far has been a little bit different, which is quite interesting. But I really do like them. So we're rolling with them as hard as it is for me to do. Now, Kyron Horman, I'm like, where do you want me to start with this? Do you want me to start what happened that day or prior to that day? Prior to that day, he went missing. First of all, let me start about who he was. Kyron Horman shows me who he is, okay? I get a little bit insight into who they are, who their feelings are. I always feel that. What their ambitions are, what their hopes were. And he wanted to be a hero. He was very much so into heroes, and so what he's showing me is a police officer. Now, I don't know much about this little boy in reality. This is just what I'm telling you that he is showing me today, as I channeled him. So he is telling me he either wanted to be a police officer, which he may have been for Halloween once. Don't quote. Don't quote me on that because I don't know. I feel weird saying these things, but that's what I see. I actually see him like trick-or-treating, very proud, and imagining himself as this little police officer that he wanted to be. Or if that didn't pan out and for some reason like he failed to school, this is his little mind, a firefighter. And when he says firefighter, I feel like there's a speech impediment. Like firefighter. Like firefighter, like I can't say it like he does in my head, but there's like a little bit of a speech delay or a speech impediment also at play at some point. But he also pointed to the fact that he had some difficulty at birth, and I don't know on the physical realm if that's true or not. I did not research this, and this is just what I'm showing you, that there's a possibility of a struggle during birth. And I feel like he dealt with those issues throughout his childhood. But that's on top of the fact that he wasn't exactly treated right. Okay, and we'll get into that as well. So see, mama's boy, trauma at birth. Okay, and this is who he was, though. He was very much so into heroes. He loved heroes. And he really wanted to be a police officer because he felt like he was going to save the world. And he wanted the world to know him. Like, he had a larger-than-life personality. Like, he would be the one that's like, whoosh, bursting through the scenes, right? Through the scenes, right? Like, I'm gonna do this. And his favorite things were turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He loved those as well. Just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, turtles in a half shell, turtle power, right? And his dad was Kyron Horman, and his mother was Desiree Young. Now, he very much so loved his mother, but I feel like he was in like a longing for his mother's stage. Like, he didn't get to see her very often. Forgive me because I'm a little thirsty as I do these. Okay, So that's some introduction into who Kyron really was, because I feel like that was not exactly a full focus, right? The focus kind of became about his stepmother every way, and she actually in some weird way enjoyed that, so I'll just throw that out there. And that's who he struggled with, and that's where the abuse also came from, according to Kyron. Because again, I channeled him. Whatever spirit wants me to know and bring forth is what I'm going to bring forth. So it's not for me to convince you. It's just for what they need to be shown and seen. Okay, so now, now that I've talked a little bit about his mom and his dad, he loved his dad very much. To him, his dad was also a hero. And so that's where that want and need to become a hero comes into play. But he was abused, okay? And his stepmother, Kyron Horman, was an interesting character. So what they're telling me about her was she was kind of like two people, at least, is what he says is at least, right? Two people at least. She probably, I feel like she very much so more than likely did steroids at some point, if not for quite some time, and things of that nature. And he also describes her as a little bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, again, remember, I'm reading for what I channeled, because when I channel, I write things down or I'll forget them, because it's not in my memory, it's on a pure channel. And so that's who Kyron Horman was, according to Kyron. That's what he's showing me. Okay. She you know, liked to work out a lot. It was like very muscular at some point. And so she was very much so into steroids. And I feel like the steroids may have even continued even without working out, whatever that means. And at that time she was at least two people, like a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde. And she liked to abuse him, like shove him a lot is what he says, like a shove. So that's what he shows me, is he'd be like walking and she would all of a sudden just be like, boom, you know, like, you little punk. Like, why'd you do that? And he'd be like so confused. And pick on him often. And then see, it said speech issue possible. So that was with the trauma at birth, very much so mama's boy. And I feel like he may have struggled in some ways because of that. Okay, so I feel like I'm doing pretty good, and we're staying in the flow of where he wants me to go with it. And so this is kind of leading us up to going into the day that he went missing on June 4th, 2010. We know that for sure. That is the day that he disappeared. The details of how and why have never been solved to this day. But according to his stepmother, Terry, she took him to a science fair that morning at school. And then she says she left him there, and she left with her baby and went and ran some errands, did some other things, and then went home and waited for him to get off the bus. That's her story. And there's some discrepancies in that story. According to the school, apparently there was a witness that did see her, Kyron, and the baby walking back through the parking lot at some point. There was a witness, according to them, that they saw a truck at some point after that, driving somewhere. And then I do believe that one of the teachers said that she had told him there was a doctor's appointment coming up, so that's why the teachers didn't even look into the fact that he was never actually in class that day. According to the teachers, he was never marked in class, he was marked absent. And she had mentioned a doctor's appointment, and so they put those two together. Apparently some confusion there. But that is the day he went missing, according to her, from his school. That is Terry's story. And there, again, some discrepancies. And I just gave you those. Feel free to look these up elsewhere, please do. My job isn't to give you those details. My job is to give you the other side, the ones that were never shown. Okay, and so leading up to that day, leading up to June 4th, for why this occurred and who did this and why, according to what I'm seeing today, that he does give you everything, okay? And again, my job is not for you to believe me or to say these are absolutely true. I don't know. I'm giving you what I'm seeing. Lord help us all, right? I'm vulnerable in doing these. So bear with me on those. But I can only do it justice if I give you what I get. And again, I'm giving you these and whatever else he's throwing in my ear at the time. Okay? Alright. She was quite abusive. She was just kind of like, almost like she would have like bouts of bursts of anger. And that's the best way. It would just be all of a sudden like, like all of a sudden she would just, and it would most likely be at him. And because he was an easy target for her, and especially because she had a lot of time with him. And she wouldn't hurt her own baby. It was always because there was a detachment to this little boy because it was not hers. It was a stepmother. And she had some resentment toward this little boy as well. I feel like because the dad cared about him, she always felt like she was second best. And she doesn't like that. She doesn't like that. It's like if she doesn't come first, forget it. Alright, so with that being said, we're going to lead up into, so I feel like Terry and Cain. Terry and Cain. Cain is the dad. I do feel like there were times where he was not around, for whatever that's worth. But I feel like Cain and Terry were not doing so well. And I feel like there may have actually been an affair. I'm not exactly sure there. I do see an affair present. I don't know who. I'm really not sure if I care. But I feel like that is in the energy. Like there was definitely some... I feel like Cain may have wanted out, and I feel like he may have strayed, or one of them had strayed. But I feel like there was talk of divorce. I feel like there was something hurtful that had occurred. And Terry felt like she wanted to get back at him because there was very much so a feeling of, I want to hurt this man. And what is the best way to hurt this man? What is the best way to hurt this man? Okay, and that also leads me into the fact that he told me, according to Kyron, that she spent a good about 3 months planning this and finding a ways around things and the key players in all of this, and it was a good 3 months. Like, okay, started planning a few months, okay, yeah, before, all right, and so this was definitely planned by her. So keep that in mind as we go into what exactly happened. But it was a way to really cause pain and confusion and manipulation. I don't know if she exactly wanted a divorce. I'll say that right now. I'm not exactly sure that she did necessarily. I feel like there was some hope that he might lean into her a little bit. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Here, I'm doing a video for this, and I was not exactly 100% prepared, so forgive me. But I feel like she kind of figured that the dad would lean into her a little bit, and not so much that it would have gone the whole way that it did. I don't think that was necessarily her hope, but that's nonetheless, they didn't end up together, and for obvious reasons, because I do believe she did become #1 suspect pretty quickly. And so that's leading all into that. Now, come June 4th, this is what they're showing me happened, okay? Kyron, such a sweet little boy, had no idea this day was going to be any different. I feel like he was very excited this day, and this is what he was showing me. It was a science fair, and he was very excited. And he felt like he was using his little, like, this, like, you know, this is your little TMNT guy, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He was a problem solver and a half. He loved that kind of a thing. He was very much so excited. You'll have to forgive any background noises if you hear them. I live in a very noisy, children-filled environment that I cannot control. So forgive that. But I feel like this was that day on June 4th, 2010. So he did go to the science fair. I feel like at the science fair, I feel like he noticed something was off. So I'm seeing this from Kyron's eyes. This is usually, generally speaking, how I will see it. When I tune into people who are missing or gone, or the mediumship side of me, like it's almost like I encompass them. I can see them, I can feel them, I can hear them, I can taste what they taste pretty much. Okay, and so that just gives you a little insight into how I receive these things. But he is showing me at the science fair, and I feel like he was very proud, but he knew something was off. Like he was not getting the recognition that he thought he would be getting. The stepmother was very much so like doing the two people. So I feel like on one hand she was being very cold and mean to him and not recognizing him and rushing him, like let's do this, like rushing him. And then in front of others, if anybody was looking or she thought anybody was looking, she was totally different. It was very sweet. Oh, good job, honey, da 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 da, like trying to pretend to notice what he was doing or even care for that matter. And this is what he is showing me. And he felt like he was there for maybe only 5 minutes at this science fair. And I do remember her saying to somebody that they had to go. There was an appointment. So I do feel like that is being validated here. And then I feel like her arm went around his arm, like his shoulder, because that's what I'm feeling. And that's what I feel like he's showing me. It's like she just all of a sudden put her arm around his shoulder, but like a heavy weight, right? Like you're coming with me. Do not argue with me, almost like gestural, like do not argue this movement, and then tells everybody we gotta go, and then quickly ushers him out of the building. And she did it in a moment where she thought everybody was super busy, and so that nobody would be paying attention, right in like the middle to the end of the science fair. So he was very much so rushed out of it. I don't feel like he even really got to like complete it, whatever that means. Poor little boy. He's super, super, super cute. I will be showing you pictures throughout. Just a super cute little boy. Very fantastic. Like he loved that word. He very much so loved words. He felt like he struggled. And so everything was like amazing to him. But he was also very sad. Like he didn't understand a lot of things and why they were happening to him. Okay, and so she, you know, it was that gestural arm grab and come on, you're coming with me. And she did. She ushered him through. What I'm seeing was, and he's like going like, why are we leaving like this? Like this was in his head. Like something didn't feel right, but he's just a little boy. And this is his stepmom. He's not to think anything different really. And so he did. He went with her and they went through the school hallway. That's what I see, is like the school hallway, and she's like looking. And he wasn't sure if she was looking for somebody or avoiding. Like he doesn't understand. And that's what he's showing me. And then they went through the parking lot and they got into a white truck. I do see a white truck. And that was actually written down too on both of my things. White truck. Okay. And then they drove up some mountainside. All right, and there was somebody that saw that, I do believe, but they did drive up the mountainside. I don't think there was anybody else in the truck at that time, but it was her, Kyron, okay, and the baby, and that's who was in the white truck going up the mountainside at that point. Now I feel like what they're showing me is, hang on just a second. So I feel like what she did was kind of spoil him a little bit, almost maybe out of guilt. Like I feel like he may have had ice cream, and I feel like he didn't think anything bad was going to happen to him. I feel like he was a little confused, like maybe why is this stuff happening? This is not normal. But then again, this was coming from somebody who is usually two people, and he saw it that way at his young age. That something wasn't usually right. 1 minute she was this person, and it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And so, you know, I feel like she did kind of like condition him that day and try to like almost like treat him in such a way before she did what she did. And so we'll get into that too. Sorry, I don't know why my mouth is so dry in this one. All right. So they ended up heading up this mountain, and what I'm seeing is it's like up this mountainside that she's familiar with. I feel like she knows the area, and I feel like they meet people. They meet them at what looks like a picnic area, or like a camping site almost. But there's nobody else around, right? It's kind of secluded. But there is like a picnic bench. And I feel like he's off to the side playing. And I feel like she's over here at the bench talking to people. Okay, and this is what he's showing me from his perspective at that moment. Like she's over here talking to people and he's playing over here going, okay, I have no idea, I just know I'm playing, this is pretty cool, I'm having a pretty cool day, which isn't usual, right? And so he's okay, like he's all happy because this is not usual. But so he's going with the flow, he's not questioning anything completely at that point at all. And she's talking to these people. Now, who are these people? So I channeled this more than once, and once I get a same response more than one time, for me that's more like, okay, I feel better sharing this, so take that for what it's worth. I have channeled this more than once, and I got the same thing more than one time. So I feel confident in sharing with you this information that I'm about to share with you, and neither way am I trying to incriminate anybody or saying that you have to believe this or this is exact. Take it for what it's worth. It's just what I get, and so it's what I'm going to give. I'm not doing last names. I am not given last names. I am given first names only. However, Terry Horman, the stepmother, knew somebody. I feel like it stems from this one person named Stephanie. The Stephanie person knew somebody named Rick. Okay, Stephanie and Rick are the two people that she met at this picnic table up in this mountain. I feel like when she took him from school, I feel like they made other stops first, whatever that means, maybe, possibly, and then they met these people. It was almost like they didn't go straight there. And it was also like not her plan. So I feel like she was following the directions of other people. And so take that for what it's worth, either possibly this Rick person. But so Stephanie and Rick are the two people that she meets with Kyron. And she did have the baby with her, I do believe. Possible, at least part of it. But Stephanie and Rick, okay. Now Rick is like a biker guy. There's almost like a gang connection of a sort, but I feel like more like a biker gang type of thing. But even almost like mafioso type of a thing. Like it's interesting the energy that I'm getting from that. So take that for what it's worth. But I also feel like he wanted to be like the head honcho, but he was more like the mule. More like mule stage, but he had an ego and he was really working towards head honcho. And he would probably tell people he was head honcho, even if he was not a head honcho. Alright, and so that was the Rick dude. But Stephanie and Rick are the two key players, as well as Terry Horman. Again, no last names on Stephanie and Rick. That's what they give me, so that's what I give you. Stephanie knew Terry. Terry knew Stephanie. Stephanie knew Rick. And that is your tie. And so they spent a good little while having a conversation, I feel like, before they actually took off and did what I call the exchange, or what you would call the kidnapping, technically speaking. So Terry did not do anything herself physically, other than she basically sold her stepson into a trafficking circle, I guess you could call it. He kind of basically became like a mule for these gang members. And that's kind of how I see it. Is that 1000% accurate? I don't know. I'm just giving you what I see. I see biker, a mule, kind of wanted to be the head honcho. I do see like mafioso type stuff, connection, like maybe even like a little bit of like a, forgive me, like a Mexican individual, right? Mexican American, whatever you want to call him. No harm intended with how I speak or how I come off. I am totally in love with everybody. I don't care about race at all. So please don't take anything that way when I do talk about these things. Seriously, that's who I am. I love everybody. I don't see in color, and so it bothers me. But I still don't want to offend anybody. But I see like Mexican, or like mafioso type connection in there as well. But even like a biker gang. But so what happened was she basically gave him up, sold him for a very shitty price, right? Like you could put a price on a life, but I feel like this is coming through. I feel like it was a very, very low gestural amount, technically speaking. Like it was just basically like you're taking away my trash for me, so you're doing me a favor, so thank you, kind of a thing. So these were not great people, right? these were not great people, but I feel like it was sexual related too. Like, especially with like the Stephanie chick, like these women wanted to be like revered, I guess you could say, which is really weird and kind of gross. So Terry and her friend Stephanie, and I feel like there was a group of women that were like that with these group of men. So that's what that is. I have no idea how accurate that is. I don't know anything about these people. I'm just telling you what I need to be shown and what they're showing me to tell you, okay? Don't judge me and take it for what it's worth. Alright, and so what happened was the final exchange. Kyron was then given some story of why he should trust these people, because like I said, they spent some time having a conversation together, and that's what I wrote down, like a long combo first, okay? And then she handed him off. So she took him from the science fair, did some things, kind of spoiled him a little that day, like almost out of a consciousness that might have been in existence a little bit. Then he was actually playing, like off in the distance, right? And then handed him off, and they took him, okay? Now, right away, I'm going to tell you he did not die for quite some time. So he wasn't just taken to be killed right away. What I've seen a couple times over, what he is showing me as I brought him forth today and called his energy forward, is that he didn't die for about 3 years. He was used as a mule. He was a tool. He was no longer in the area, and that's why they never found him. So he was immediately taken somewhere else. And in the end, the way he died was not in Oregon as well. Okay, so he was used as a tool. He was given drugs as a tester almost, like, here, try these. How potent are these? Did he survive? Okay, cool, let's to put him out there. That kind of a thing as well, and some other things. And so if he was 7 when he went missing in 2010, that brings him to about around 10. He says 11 years old, so you're going into a little over 3 years later, right? So that would have been in 2013, roughly-ish, towards 2014, that he did finally pass away. So he is dead. He is on the other side. He has passed away. May he finally have all the pieces that he needs, and the comfort and support and rest that he so desires in this ascension process from this moment forward. But he was very much so just used kind of like a mule. And even when he died at 11 years old, he was no longer a virgin. It was that way. Like, he was just totally treated like a discarded piece of crap, right, for these gang members to do whatever they wanted to do with. Or whoever they wanted to use him for, or whatever they wanted to use him for. And then it came to a point where he was basically no longer of use, kind of like a weak link. And that's what they're showing me, okay, is that he was basically like so I'm just reading and making sure I'm not missing anything. But that he was like the weak link. And so they used him like a gang initiation. And so what I see for his passing, at first all they told me is that he was discarded in Kentucky. So I see it over like a bridge. Like, he was, at one point his hands were tied, and then at another point he was like flung over the bridge. And as he was flung over the bridge, it was almost like he was like everything was out, and he was kind of just like flying. And I know it's horrible, but I'm showing you what I was shown. But what happened to him, because I was like, how did you die? Like, I see where your body went, and it's somewhere in Kentucky over a bridge. Let's see where I wrote. Discarded in Kentucky, bridge, large waterway, leads into big waterway. So it's like a larger waterway leading into a bigger waterway. And that's where he was discarded, somewhere like this secluded like bridge over one waterway that leads into a larger waterway in Kentucky. And at one point his body may have been half out of the water, so I feel like there was a point where he was somewhat out of the water. And that's what I kind of see there as well. But so this gang of people really basically beat him to death. And that's what I see. And when I asked how he died, the final blow was to his chest. And it looks like a black combat boot kicked him so hard, he like went, phew, and it like got his heart. Like it kicked his heart. Like he shows me what happened is immediately his heart stopped. It was like he went, phew. And I'm like, did that take your breath away? And he said, no, it stopped my heart. And that's what he's showing me. It was like, phew. And it, like, the life just went pooh. And that was that. He did unfortunately suffer prior to that. He was, and this is what I see, he was not treated very well. Nor was he in life for a little bit before that either, unfortunately. And so, you know, did he die right away? No, this is what had happened to him. So he was 11 years old when he did indeed pass, according to him and what I'm receiving. And these are hard. This is vulnerable for me to do, but I have to give you what I see. And again, I channeled this more than one time. This was like weeks ago, weeks and weeks ago, a month ago or more at this point for what I went through. And then this one was today, and again before. And so with that, I felt confident to share with you, and knowing that this is what they want shared. But he had died again around 3 years later. Again, the birth trauma was written down. So I'm just going over and making sure I didn't miss anything. That day he was spoiled. Like right before he says he was spoiled, which is not usual. So we got like ice cream, shoes, and clothes from Terry. And I don't know if that was her way of feeling better. But yeah, like he was beat by the gang. Like an initiation for the gang to actually have something to beat that nobody would catch on to. And he was just considered the weak link, so too much risk, and they were done with him. But that's what happened, and so it's like human trafficked. I do feel like as far as the sexual stuff goes, it is like absolutely molestation, just very much so trauma-filled, unfortunately. So that's what I have for you. That's that. 3555. So hopefully that brings about the absolute changes that it needs to bring about for that one. I feel like that's exactly what that meant right when I said that. That's that. It was 3555. So bless your little heart, Kyron. So much love to you. I think you're the coolest little dude I've ever met. Thank you for sharing your space with me and for sharing with us what happened along your journey. And may you have beautiful love and light moving ahead. And that everything can now be all right with this healing light. Okay. Yeah. To each his own. You know, people will go where they need to go. Things will happen the way they need to happen. So he is saying rest assured of that. And that is exactly what he is saying. It's like things will happen the way they need to happen from this moment forward. You don't need to worry about that. I feel like people will go exactly where they need to go. Okay, so for whatever that's worth, that's what he is saying. But what a beautiful little boy. And I just thank him for sharing his time and his life with us. So much love to all of you who listened. And again, it was Stephanie and Rick. Stephanie and Rick. I don't know why I need to repeat that. But it was Stephanie and Rick. That's the names that they are giving me. And then, of course, Terry is the one who planned it and set it up. So there you have it. So much love to all of you. And until next time. Bye-bye.